I saw Wolfman, same idea, like 89 minutes, I think. But this was really well paced, and it was such a great blend of a rom-com and a slasher, something I've never seen before
Yeah, it's very
in a
original.
movie. It's very original.
It's perfect because we make you laugh and we make you feel good and it's romantic. And then all of a sudden we scare the crap out of you and there's gore and blood and it's perfect. It's the perfect combination, especially for Valentine's Day.
Welcome back to the Rockman Power Hour, a podcast where we talk to the most interesting people in the world of pop culture and everything in between. And this week on the show, we are going to be chatting with some of the creative forces behind the new slasher flick, Hard Eyes. Welcome back to the show. Really, really happy to be with you again, kicking into 2025 with some great content. Everybody loves Casper. And I know that everyone in my house and a lot of my friends are fascinated, almost obsessed with that film that, of course, starred Devon Sawa. And Ryan, my co-host, is a big, big Casper fan. So I want to bring Ryan in here. Ryan,
dude, I'm not just a Casper fan. I am a lifetime of Devon Sawa fan because that dude was like a teen idol, super good looking, cool dude. And at some point you're like, hey, fuck you, buddy. Why are all the girls like you? It's like, well, I know why they like you. You're amazing. Look, anyway, but then he started as he later teenage years, he started in the horror train, Final Destination.
Yeah.
Some crazy amazing movies like SLC Punk, someone who didn't turn his nose up to like an independent film either.
No,
this is amazing, man. I am so jelly you got to talk to him. I'm so glad you did.
Well, it's cool because I got invited to go see Hard Eyes, and I really, really, I just want to start off by saying I really enjoy this movie. It's really, really good. It opens everywhere February 7th. I really encourage people to go check it out. We'll talk more at length about the movie. We talk about it with our two guests, but I like Devon a lot. I like his work, and I know that my wife Julia, who is a producer of our show, is a big, big Casper fan. And she always tells me that when she was a kid and she saw Casper and then the real life Casper, the boy version of Casper, she was just like, oh my God, who is this little blonde boy? So she's been kind of obsessed with him and followed him for a while. And she was always, she would always be updating me on what he was doing. Like did you know he was doing this? Did you know that? Did you know he's on the new show, the new Chucky series? And like, he's a reoccurring character and he keeps playing all these different people. And I remembered him, where I remembered him was from Final Destination. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then of course I watched Idle Hands. I wasn't an Idle Hands guy from the beginning. But I went back and watched it, and it was because of Cody and Studio House Designs, their Idle Hand shirt, which made me go, I got to check out this movie. If they're doing a shirt about it, it must be pretty special. And so I was like, I kind of got into the Devon Sawa universe a bit more. So when he showed up in Hard Eyes, I was like, oh yes, man, this guy's great. Cause he really does add a little something to everything he's in.
There's an effortless cool about him that I've wanted to have my whole life, but I guess in wanting to have it defeats the cool that is natural in the first place. That's some Buddha shit. But anyhow, the first time I ever saw him was in this film called The Little Giants, and he plays the last minute ringer quarterback that, helps the team. And that movie was fucking crazy. But what's funny about that, and if he's ever on the show in long form, we get to ask him all this other stuff. It'd be really interesting because he was like 13 or 14 in Little Giants, and everybody else was 7.
Yeah.
Or even if they're 10 years old, when you're that age, 4 years must feel.
Oh my God, it's huge. I mean, I just look at the difference between my two kids. One's 20, one's 17, and like, there's a world of difference between the two of them. So 3 years when you're young, it's a big, big deal. When you get older, I mean, what does it matter, right? It's But the movie is really, really good. Devon's really cool. We also got a chance to speak to the director, Josh Ruben. And I got to tell you, Ryan, I know you haven't seen the movie yet, but
Yeah.
we're going to try to go see it the week it opens again together. It's really, really fun. I think it's everything that a horror movie needs to be. It has originality. It has great kills. It has great pacing. And I keep talking about the pacing when I'm speaking to both of these guys, because the pacing in the movie, like pacing in a horror movie to me is so, so important. And it just moves along at a clip. And it's the perfect marriage of a really cheesy rom-com and a great slasher flick. And it's like they just took the two and went, bam, we're going to put you together like a soup almost. And it just works. It really, really works.
That's really cool and really refreshing to hear. I recognize the director from skits from this amazing YouTube series called College Humor,
Yeah.
and I looked it up, and he was a director of many of those. And it's just College Humor. Oh my god! Like 10 years ago, like were the definitive. Like I used to have a show called Season Zero, and we used to
Yep.
love College Humor and all these other shows when humor was just the right amount of edgy and just like satirical and all that awesome shit. So it's really cool to see him making feature films. I see that he directed a werewolf movie I have not seen yet.
Yeah, I want to see that because it looks really
Me
cool.
too.
I saw that in his when doing research or chat with him, I saw that he had done that, but he hasn't done a ton of features. This is
Yeah.
one of his first big things that he's done. So I think Josh has got a really, really big future in doing big studio movies. He obviously Werewolf Within was one. And Scare Me was one, and he seems to like kind of sit in that comedy genre, like you were mentioning, like College Humor. So I think he works in that, and I think he understands comedy and horror and timing. Timing is so important, especially in comedy and horror. Those two genres, timing is everything. So the fact that they're able to marry that and put it all into the sauce and make it work, I think this movie's gonna. I really predict that this movie is gonna absolutely kill at the box office. It's gonna be one of those movies that kids are gonna want to go see in the theater together.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's inevitable it's going to kill, no pun intended.
Yeah,
Actually, pun intended, speaking of today.
yeah,
But I think it's like one of those things that's going to really kill on streaming. So, and then you have that thought of when you're
mm.
seeing something on streaming and you're like, "Ah,
I
I
wish I would have
really
seen it.
wish I
Yeah,
would have saw
yep,
this in the theater."
yep,
So why not have a preemptive strike and actually do this, folks? Why don't you go to
yeah.
the cinema and just see what's going to happen? Because back in the day, like with friends, we're like, "What are we doing Friday?" I don't know. We're gonna see a movie. What's playing? This cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, right? And
yeah.
I've been making a point of trying to go see as many movies as I can this year. I've already
Mm,
seen, I already went to go see Werewolf. I went to go see Hard Eyes.
mm.
I'm going to see Presence tonight, which by the time we put this out, but the Presence is coming out on Friday as well. So I love the idea of going to see films in the theater. To me, it's where it should be happening, and a lot of people just give up that experience because of comfort, but like go to the movie theaters and see movies the way they're supposed to be, especially a movie like Hard Eyes. It is meant to be seen with an audience, with popcorn, with energy. It has to be a fun experience. I remember. Do you remember when we went to go see Alien Romulus?
Oh yeah, with the kids, that was great.
It was amazing. Like there was like
Yeah.
7 of us, and we all went on opening night on the
With
Thursday, and it
with
was
no
great.
reviews, anything,
Yeah,
and then I read some reviews and then you get home and some reviewers like, "Oh, this film wasn't as nearly distinguished as Ridley Scott's original 1978 film." And it's just kind of like there's a seriousness in film where you want a critic to be honest with you, but at the same time, you can tell they're trying to impress you with
yeah,
their interpretation of it as opposed to telling you what the movie is. And I think
yeah.
there's a way to do both.
How about just going to see the movie and having a good fucking time? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and just it's a movie. It's not supposed to be. It's not. Look, I shouldn't say it's not supposed to be a life changing event because sometimes movies are life changing events. But I I go, and you know this. I don't consider myself a critic. I consider myself a movie fan, and I
Yeah.
go into every movie viewing experience with the same energy. Make me your biggest fan. I want
Yeah.
to leave this theater, tell the entire world how good it is. So I always give everything a fair shake. I don't listen to anything I've heard before. And I tried to base my opinions on my own viewing experience. Having said that, I go to see something like Nosferatu. Everyone in the theater was jiving on it. I just think maybe it was the where I was sitting in the theater. Maybe it was the way I was feeling that day. It didn't grab me the way it grabbed other people. But I know enough people that have seen it that loved it that I'm going to watch it again and give it another fair shake. So it a lot of it has, there's so many factors that come into play, but that's why if you go in with a good attitude to begin with and just go have fun, stay off your phone, make it a movie, make it a fun movie going experience. But I think Hard Eyes is something that people are going to love. And I want to get to some of these chats that we had because they were really, really fun. It's always fun to do a junket. Junkets are different. It's a little weird sometimes bringing in two people to a junket because it's so time constrained that they're very like they want, they're giving you a countdown as you're doing it. So it's like I really like to do stuff with you. So, but when we did speak to Devon, I made sure to ask two of your key questions that you'd given me, which we're going to get to when we talk to him. But before we go too far, I just want to take a minute to thank our friends at Heartbeat Hot Sauce, the heartbeat of the Rockman Power Hour. Make sure you use our promo code Rockman20 to get 20% off your entire order. They are an incredible hot sauce company out of Thunder Bay, Ontario, who we absolutely love and support. So make sure you try Heartbeat Hot Sauce if you have not yet. It'll change your mind on what hot sauce is because it is a lot more than you think if you haven't tried Heartbeat. Also, our thanks to our friends at Studio House Designs and to our friends at Audio Technica Canada for all this great gear. All right, let's jump into this, Ryan. Our chat with the director of Hard Eyes, Josh Ruben. How are you, man?
Saying, is that the new Nightmare glove?
It's an actual custom one, and it's signed by three of the Nightmare ladies and by Egland.
Oh my god, I'm obsessed. I swear I'm paying attention, but I'm like frantically.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. I've got all kinds of crap back here.
What can I touch? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Congratulations on this because I know this is a big one for you. And I never thought I would get a rom-com slasher, but that's, just when you think you've seen everything, this is really fresh and original. And it's what I loved about this movie was that it follows the beats of a rom-com beautifully. You're like, I've seen this before, but not with that kind of gore and not with that kind of stakes. The stakes were high in the movie, and I really enjoyed it. And another thing, it was beautifully paced. Like the pacing of this movie was great. And you could tell that there was a lot of attention and, there was a lot of attention. There was a lot of focus on the pacing. And now you noticing my glove tells me why, because you're obviously a fan of the genre.
I'm a huge fan of the genre, and thank you so much for saying that. That I like making films that you can put on in the background, that you can put on again and again and again, that aren't so intense that you appreciate it, but you can only see it once.
Yeah,
that was what Joe Dante was for me. I'm a Joe Dante and obviously a huge Sam Raimi fan. You can pop on any one of their films just about in their catalog and escape. And I like making horror films where you can escape the horrors of the real world. And we really need these types of films now more than ever. And pace is a huge piece of that. You go, yeah, well, it's just 90 minutes. I can just throw Hard Eyes on. People can enjoy I wouldn't even say a director's cut, but there's plenty of special features and more kind of beats and more blood and more gore and more, kind of goodies that folks can enjoy in the age of the 4K special edition or whatever. And so, that's always available for folks, but it's important. You want people to just enjoy it multiple times.
Oh yeah, and it is something that that can be put on, and I'm sure the more I watch, because I am a physical, as you can probably figure out, I am a physical media guy, so I will. It is the kind of thing that I will want to get on 4K Steelbook or if it gets released on Arrow or whatever. But what's great is that it feels like filmmakers are going back to hard pacing, like not having things be so bloated, having things being lean and mean. And that's what I love to see, especially in horror. When you get people that are like, they pay attention to the beats. And that's the first thing I thought when I walked out of the movie. I was like, man, that was really, really beautifully paced.
Yeah, thank you. You have to listen to your audience too. We there's a process of editing a film where you open it up to your trusted buddies, and we had everyone from Kate Siegel and Mike Flanagan to the Radio Silence dudes and Molly Elfman, Axel Carolyn, just really trusted genre filmmakers and writers. Yep. Lauren Kahn, who did Fresh, and you have to listen to and not just get all bristled if they have some kind of negative opinion about really any piece of it. You have
Sure.
to listen to every type of different person who appreciates the genre, and that was a big piece of it. Was what else can we do? What are you missing? What do you want to see? What are you confused about? As opposed to kind of hiding in my like auteur tower and being like, no.
Yeah, yeah.
And that makes a great film. That's also why I think I'm halfway decent at what I do. Is you
Yeah.
have to be collaborative. You have to listen to everyone. You have to listen to ideas from your actors, your production designer, your PA, and then take that and funnel it through your vision. And that makes it, that's part of why it ends up being halfway decent, having a bold life.
And also having a good killer. And what makes a good movie, and of course a good franchise, if you get lucky, is a good killer. And after seeing Hard Eyes, I want more Hard Eyes. You know what I mean? It's down to the mask, down to the costume design. Where did you draw from for those influences?
Jason Lives.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th Jason Lives was my white whale. I'll never forget seeing that movie as a kid and
Mm.
remembering like Tony Goldwyn and the small gun and the color but then again like I was probably 7 years old watching that movie on VHS and switching the tone from the abject terror of him looming over, this poor couple before stabbing them with a weather
Yeah. Yeah.
spear, and then jumping into like a silly sequence in the woods where that musically went a little too far, but knowing that it was just a fun ride,
Yeah.
that was all I wanted. That was all you can ask for. We're so used to everything. Us genre dudes have seen everything, so it's
Yeah.
constantly going, well, what else can we do? You can never go wrong with actual chemistry, with great acting, with a good story and a good dynamic. But as far as like the kills and the killing go, it's like we got to have fun. It's got to be colorful. It's got to be fast, and it's got to be as iconic as we can muster. But of course, saying you want a killer to be iconic is like saying you want to make a viral video.
Yeah. Easier said than done.
It's easier said than done, and I'm just glad people are responding this way. I think this film's going to have a long life, and all the films that come after it.
Oh, I think so too. And it was the first thing I thought when I after going over the pacing in my head, I said, "Man, I want more Hard Eyes. I want more of this. I really enjoyed it." And I mean, kudos to being able to mash two genres up like that so beautifully. There's a scene in Olivia's apartment where we get a great surprise, and it's for me to get scared still or to get to jump. It's a big feat because I've seen everything. What do you attribute to a good jump scare?
Well, you have to be lulled into a sense of security and a sense
Yes.
of commonness, right? And a sense of symmetry, because it's the asymmetry that always gets you, you know.
Mm.
I look in the cupboard, there's nothing in the cupboard. I close the refrigerator, they're not behind the refrigerator, but it's, that third time is going to be expected.
Yeah.
But if you, close the fridge, we assume someone's going to be behind the fridge and nothing's there. And then when you open the cupboard just kind of casually and the cat jumps out, that's when you can kind of typically you pee yourselves. So I, it's such a chemistry, and there's always more when I look at this film and everything that I've done, where I go, oh man, if only you saw just a glimpse of him in the background, like the quote unquote ghost in Three Men and a Baby.
Right.
But I just try to map it out in my mind and put myself in the position of the horror fan that I am. I want to imagine myself sitting in at the Egyptian, at Beyond Fest or something, and just what's the most exciting version of my experience, and just kind of trust my taste.
Definitely a movie to be seen with an audience as well. I want to go back and see it when they do the promo screening, because I saw it with some critics. There's like 5 or 6, and nobody wants to show a reaction or anything because they're cooler than school. But to see this in a full house with have people howling, have you had a chance to do that at all yet, or has it all been pretty much just you mentioned seeing it with Flanagan and seeing it with friends, but have you been able to see it with an audience or a test audience?
Oh yeah, the two test audiences we had, excuse me, it was such a thrill just know that the jokes worked, but
Yeah.
well, no, that those jumps, I can't wait I'll sneak into as many as they'll let me in.
Yeah.
That's the
Um,
best experience you can have, homies.
well,
Like, you want to make a film you can bring 10 friends to. This is it.
Well, that's it, and it's so important to have that horror experience in a theater, and that's what anybody, I think it's one of the reasons why the horror genre always succeeds in the theater and at the box office, because people want to have that communal experience of where they all they're lulled into that security and they are feared, they have that fear that they celebrate communally. Um, I found that Mason was so good as the leading man. When you cast that, did you have to see a lot of people before you settled on him?
Oh, you got to do your rounds, and this is a studio film. Everybody wants
Sure.
options. There's something about Mason. I mean, the moment he auditioned for me on Zoom,
Okay.
which is so repulsive. It's I don't know why we can't do everything in person. I can't remember where I was, if I was in New Zealand at the time or what. It was such a blur. This move that was all moving so fast. But there's something about Mason specifically where you put the dude on camera and he just like he
Yeah.
leaps off the screen because he's so beautiful,
Yeah.
but he's also so charming,
Yeah. He's so charismatic.
so charismatic, and also the sweetest person on the planet. So he is this guy.
Yeah.
He really is. Jay is sensitive and thoughtful and charming, effortlessly charming. And it just became a no-brainer. And the crazy thing is we were moving so fast we didn't have time for a chemistry read. So I just had to cross my fingers, and Olivia was like, yeah, I mean, I love that dude, like I've never met him before, but let's hope it works out. And everybody I talked to who had worked with him, like the Radio Silence guys, were happy to
Yeah.
volunteer. Josh, you're not going to believe it. You're going to think it's hyperbole. He is one of the greatest human beings on the planet, and he's also down. Everybody in this cast, everybody is super, super down and trusting, and I can't imagine that would be sans my filmography. They'd probably take a look at my work and go, okay, we'll trust this dude. But the fact that everybody was so kind and so down only is going to give the film a longer life.
Congratulations, man. Continued success. I loved it.
Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate it.
I really love the Tom McLaughlin shout out.
Yeah.
He wasn't complimenting Tom himself. He was complimenting Jason Lives as an entity.
Yeah.
And something to live up to.
And I didn't want to be like, we had him on our, like, I wanted to kind of but I was like, but we did. We had him. And, of course, and when you see Hard Eyes, you'll get it. You'll get all the nods to the movie.
Yeah, but I was watching, when I was editing it, I turned into Will Ferrell and Elf, and I was like, I know him.
Yeah.
I know him. Yeah. And then, but you realize, like, in a 10-minute interview on a junket, that's such a detractor that could eat up. And a minute and a half of anything on a junket is bandwidth you just cannot sacrifice.
No, it's that's why the long form interview is always something that we encourage more on the show. But hey, listen, when you get a chance to talk to these guys, you take what you can. And I liked him a lot. The minute he came in, he saw my Freddy glove.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, nice glove. Is that the new one?" I'm like, "Well, actually, it's a custom one." And but yeah, you could tell
signed by the whole cast.
Yeah, well, you could tell that he is an aficionado, and it was really, really cool to chat with him. All right, so let's jump into this one. This is one that a lot of people are excited about. Of course, Devon Sawa, who is in the new movie Hard Eyes, is great. Listen, let's just chat with Devon, because you're going to see there's a reason why that this guy has been as popular as he has been. He's just the epitome of cool, man. He just really has that cool vibe. So here it is, our chat with Devon Sawa from the movie Hard Eyes.
What's up, man?
Hey, how are you, man?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I have this on for you. I hope you don't mind.
I wait. Dope. I love it. Throwing it back. Someone told me today that it's 30 years or 35 years. Oh God, I don't know. Can't
Something like that. But I know a couple of people I told today that I was going to be chatting with you were very excited about that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Also, I'm a friend of Bill and Bob, so they say hi.
Perfect. Tell them hi.
Listen, I got to talk to Josh earlier, and what I love about this movie is the pacing. It's just so well paced. And, being someone who's a big fan of horror, I don't want to call myself a horror aficionado, but I've seen a lot of the genre. I like living in the genre and really soaking it in. And it's almost like we're seeing a return to the perfect 90-minute movie,
Yeah.
where all the beats are hit, everything works, and it moves along at such a nice pace.
The great thing about this movie is we made a movie to go to the theaters and watch, grab a bucket of popcorn, enjoy yourself, escape for a bit. So I think 90 minutes, it's the perfect amount of time to have a great time,
Yeah, and we're all of that. I mean, I'm of that. I'm born in '71, so I'm of that generation where that was the norm. If
Yeah.
you got something that was 2 hours, it was it was almost like it was special, but there was a reason for it, and sometimes it was unnecessary. But now we're seeing a return to it. I saw Wolfman, same idea, like 89 minutes, I think. But this was really well paced, and it was such a great blend of a rom-com and a slasher, something I've never seen before.
Yeah, it's very original
in a movie. It's very original.
It's perfect because we make you laugh and we make you feel good and it's romantic. And then all of a sudden we scare the crap out of you and there's gore and blood and it's perfect. It's the perfect combination, especially for Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Being someone who's, you're a great comedic and you're a great physical actor, but you've worked in comedic horror and you've worked in serious horror. Which one do you prefer?
I prefer. Listen. I just love horror. I didn't know until I did Idle Hands.
Yeah.
That I should be doing this all the time. Like I grew up in the '80s, and I had a video card for ABC Video, and you could rent whatever you wanted as long as it wasn't behind the curtain, if you know what I mean.
I know.
And I would gravitate to either Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis kind of action films, or the horror movies, the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Friday the 13th, the Pumpkinheads, the Critters, the Ghoulies, all these great 80s video cassette kind of movies. And when I did Idle Hands, I just knew that I had to do horror. So it wasn't about whether it was horror comedy or serious horror, or psychological like Final Destination, or horror comedy again with Chucky. I just like being in that genre, and there's so many subgenres of it. So.
And you're great in it, and I think that you've done so many great horror movies that have lasted. When you're a part of something like this, like Hard Eyes, you see the way they craft an incredible killer. It's beautifully paced. It's got a lot of originality to it. Can you see this lasting as a franchise and being a franchise?
I knew right when I got the plane. It was shot in New Zealand, and I got the plane. It was a long travel day, and I went right to set because they needed me to. It was time sensitive that I do a wardrobe fitting, and I went right onto set to meet Josh in person for the first time. And up until that point, I thought the Hard Eyes Killer would be this emoji looking mask with like kind of like the yellow with. I had no idea what it was. And Tony Gardner, the guy that created the mask along with Josh, it feels like it's going to be this iconic character, this character that lives with the Jasons and the Freddys and the Chuckies and the Leatherfaces. I feel like I'm going to get a call in like 20 years saying, hey, they shot part 12 of Hard Eyes and they're wondering if they get some of the old cast back for the premiere. You know what I mean? I feel like it's going to be one of those kind of films.
Same. And it's nice to see that we're getting those killers again. I think Eli did a great job with Thanksgiving and giving us, John Carver, and it's nice to see these colors like, you and I grew up on in the '80s, like we had those guys.
For sure.
Do you remember the first, you mentioned some of the stuff at the video store, but do you remember the first horror movie that you saw?
I want to say it was one of the Friday the 13th, or sorry, one of the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, whether it was part 2 or part 3. I didn't see the original. I went back to see the original again. That might have been one of the first ones. I remember for some reason, one of my earliest memories were the Elvira videos. I had those, and there were so many. I don't remember. I remember whatever looked the craziest on the box. Whether it was that Ghoulies character coming out of the toilet or Pumpkinhead or whatever it was that was just bizarre on the box. That would be what I would gravitate towards.
I know you SLC Punk, and then of course you working with Glenn Danzig. Are you a punk fan? Are you a fan of punk music?
So the Glenn Danzig thing, I worked with Fred Durst on a movie and had such a friggin' great experience.
And that movie was, I got to tell you, man, that movie didn't get the love that it deserved, because I really enjoy that movie.
A lot of people do. I
thought John was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was creepy, like that movie. And whatever the reasons were, and listen, it happens all the time, but I really enjoyed that movie.
I think there was a certain time on the internet when things would snowball, either in the right direction or the wrong direction. I think that as soon as we started shooting that, and somebody wrote, it's directed by the lead singer of Limp Bizkit and John
Yeah.
Travolta, and there was all of a sudden somebody wrote something that was negative, and it kind of started rolling that way. Listen, is it a perfect film? No, there's some things that I would change, but I think that it got a little hate for it didn't get the love. It should have got a little more love.
Right.
But that's what brought me to the Glenn Danzig film. Is like I had such a great time working with Fred that I was like, oh man, this rock star energy, and I did the Glenn Danzig film, and that was fun. Am I a punk? I was. I'm a big Rancid fan. I'm Green Day if you want to pop punk. I don't know.
Right. But being from Vancouver, I mean, there's some great punk rock roots in Vancouver.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I came to LA at an early age. So when there's great, punk rock roots in LA.
Well, yeah, you guys, I mean, come on, Black Flag, like everything, so many great things. TSOL, there's so many great punk bands that came out of LA.
Yeah, for sure.
It must be really, really fun to work with Jordana. I mean, she's been involved with, all those Fast and Furious movies, and she's got quite the pedigree as well. But you guys seem to have really nice chemistry together on screen.
We clicked right away. I walked on set, and she looked so comfortable and so grounded, and I was very nervous and jealous that I couldn't be, as not nervous as she was. But she told me later that she was very nervous as well. She's an outstanding human, easy on the eyes, great actress. Been doing it for as long as I've been doing it, and we hit it off really well.
And lastly, I just want to ask you, this is a movie I believe that needs to be seen in a cinema with a massive amount of people. Like you have to be sandwiched together. You have to have popcorn. It's a real theater experience movie.
Yes. It's like Final Destination was the same kind of way.
Yes.
You had to see Final Destination because the jumps all work together. And I think if you go to the theater and everybody's in the mood to watch, this horror movie with, it's got a little bit of romance in it, those jumps and that gore and those scares, everybody's going to just have a good time together. And you're right. You're absolutely right. It's one of these movies that it's going to work in a crowd for sure.
I'm definitely going to have to go back and see it with, I got an early screening, which was with 5 or 6 critics, and that always sucks. I mean, everybody's too cool to be, having any kind of reaction.
I can't wait to take my son is 11. I know it's a rated R film, but my son is 11, and I'm taking him and a couple of his buddies to a packed theater. I absolutely think I've never done something like that. So it's going to be him.
11 is a great age.
To 11's, I mean, I was well into my horrors by the age of 11, but I'm taking him and a bunch of his dudes to watch Hard Eyes, and it's going to be, I'm so excited.
My parents took me to see a double feature of The Omen and The Stepford Wives in Cape Cod I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Maybe 7.
My 8th birthday was to go see James Cameron's Aliens. It was an interesting choice by my father. But it was one of my favorite movies. So.
Well, listen, man, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. Continued success.
Thank you.
Again, big fan of Casper. My wife, when I told her I was talking to you, was losing it. I think you were her first crush. So
thank you very much. Tell her I say hi.
I will for sure. And man, this movie is going to kill.
I agree, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for the next few weeks. Go see it again and tell everybody to see it.
I will. Enjoy it, man. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning the questions I had submitted to you, because there's just stuff I've always wanted to ask him.
Yeah.
But further mentioning he's a very gifted, physical comedic actor, almost like a silent film star. He worked with another icon in the horror world a few years ago with Bruce Campbell in a film called Black Friday. And that's something I forgot to bring up to you, because I'm he must have been an evil, the people making Idle Hands must like Evil Dead and the physicality that was brought to it.
Of course,
and the Three Stooges. So that must have been a real trip. But anyway, really great interview. Hearing how much he liked Rancid made me wear this shirt today, this Dixon shirt that you got me for my birthday last year, which is one of my, first of all, 2 things. Started off the love affair with Dixon shirts.
Yeah, shout out to Dixon, because they're great. Dixon Canada is awesome.
Now I have 3, and I definitely need some more. But this is the Rancid shirt. And hearing him say I liked Rancid and Green Day,
I know.
Pathetically in my mind as I'm editing this, I'm like, oh, we could have been friends. And
no, dude, totally,
Yeah.
man. He likes both the bands you love, so I thought it was, but he's like I said, man, he's really cool, and he doesn't take himself too seriously. and he's a great actor, man. He's a great actor. He's a very underrated actor,
Yeah.
and he's really fun in Hard Eyes. You know, he he has a way of just he just knows what he's doing, man. He knows what he's doing in the movie, and his character is great. He plays so well off Jordana Brewster. Like he plays
Okay.
really well off her. Like he's a cop and it's his partner, so they play
Yeah.
really well off of each other.
That's amazing. Something about the punk stuff too, and it was really cool to hear just you ask him about like working with Glenn Danzig and stuff.
Yeah.
But idle hands, and you know how it is on movie sets. It's like just because you're in the same room doesn't mean you actually work together based on the angles, unless you're like literally standing next to somebody. But in this case, he did in Idle Hands, the Offspring play. So I'm wondering,
Yes,
like
it's true. It's true.
being a pretty young guy who was exposed to 90s punk music, I'm wondering, it's like, holy shit, was he tripping balls when he got to work with the Offspring? Because I would have.
Yeah,
That's
no
really,
kidding. No kidding.
Anyway,
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, I really encourage people to go check out Hard Eyes. It opens in theaters everywhere on February 7th, and I guarantee you'll have a good time. Again, a perfect combination of a rom-com and a slasher just mixed together, and it just works. A smooth 97-minute movie that I think you will thoroughly enjoy, and it is meant to be seen in a theater, in a packed theater. So definitely go check out Hard Eyes and kick off your Valentine's Day the right way with a great killer movie.
Yeah, speaking of Julia liking Devon Sawa, Melissa loved Devon Sawa too. In fact, it's kind of hard to throw. You can't throw a rock in women who grew up in the 90s and not find like a female or or a male Devon Sawa fan that kind of like had some sort of sexual awakening, like watching like Wild America or like one of those other movies.
Yeah.
And it's funny with Melissa too because I was at my sister's and her new husband Jonathan's place last week, and I can't remember how it came up with 90s crushes, but definitely Devon Sawa was brought up multiple times by these people. So it's just so weird that a few days later you're like, I'm talking to Devon Sawa, and I'm just kind of like, boy, that would have been a great point to bring up to the table for some low key bragging.
Right? Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. And speaking of killers, what about that killer taste of Heartbeat hot sauce, Rockman?
It is the best. Make sure you check out Heartbeat Hot Sauce, the heartbeat of the Rockman Power Hour. Use our promo code Rockman20 and get 20% off your entire order. And you can use that promo code as much as you like. Also, a big thanks to our friends at Studio House Designs. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have had that Casper shirt to wear when I was talking to Devon. And that was a beautiful moment for all fans everywhere. So thank you to Heartbeat.
May I just say that the conversation starter that fucking Casper shirt is insane. Whenever I'm wearing it when we're in Niagara Falls or anything, whenever I wear it, it attracts the eyes, especially of the ladies. So everyone out there, if you want more female or male attention, whatever your preference is, I strongly suggest you wear Studio House Design shirts in public because they're a walking billboard for attention.
And thanks to our friends at Audio Technica Canada as well. And thanks to all of you. Thanks to my co-host Ryan Stick and to our producer Julia Kajurski. And until next time, we'll see you on the Rockman Power Hour. Hey, thanks so much for watching the podcast. We really appreciate your support. And if you're enjoying the podcast, click this link right over here to watch the next episode and click right over here and subscribe. And that way you won't miss anything.